All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Teacher Niv. This is Dr. Joe's reading and writing class. Today is October 23rd, 2025. If you can hear me clearly, can I get a 75 in the chat? If you can hear me clearly, can I get a 75 in the chat? Can you guys hear me? Okay, nice. 750. Okay, 6, 7. Okay, I don't think the sound really works all that well on Zoom. For some reason, it's specifically at the start of class. 76 minus 1. Nice. I kind of like this game. Everyone comes up with different answers, or unique ways to give similar answers. That's kind of funny. Okay, let's get started. Book of the day. I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. Who here has heard of this? I will I will donate a kidney to someone if they've heard of this. I thought you guys were all gonna start saying, yeah, I heard of it. I would have called you guys out as liars. Okay. Can I get a volunteer reader? Okay, Austin. Austin, can you read this for us?
At first, Jude and her twin brother Noah are inseparable. Noah draws constantly and is falling in love with the charismatic boy next door, while Daredevil Jude wears red lipstick, cliff dives, and does all the talking for both of them. Years later, they're barely speaking. Something has happened to change the twins in different yet equally devastating ways. But then Jude meets an intriguing irresistible boy and a mysterious new mentor. The early years are Noah's to tell. The later years are Jude's, but they each have only half the story. And if they can only find their way back to one another, they'll have a chance to remake their world. This radiant, award-winning novel from the acclaimed author of The Sky is Everywhere will leave you breathless and teary and laughing, often all at once.
Nice. Also this word here is inseparable. Okay. Let's get a volunteer reader. Any volunteer? Annabelle, can you read this for us?
Jandy Nelson is an American author best known for emotionally powerful young adult novels that explore love, grief, art, and identity. She was born and raised in New York and now lives in San Francisco, California. Before becoming a full-time writer, Nelson worked for many years as a literary agent, representing other authors while secretly writing her own fiction. She earned a bachelor's degree from Cornell University, followed by MFA degrees in both poetry from Brown University and children's writing from Vermont College of Fine Arts. Her background in poetry strongly influences her lush lyrical prose style. Her debut novel, The Sky is Everywhere, 2010, follows a teen dealing with the loss of her sister and learning how to love again. It was critically acclaimed and adapted into a film by Apple TV Plus in 2022. Her second novel, Give You the Sun, 2014, tells the story of artistic twins navigating jealousy, grief, and love. The book won the Michael L. Prince Award and the Stonewall Honor Award, cementing Nelson Williams the most distinctive voices in young adult literature. Nelson is known for her vivid imaginary, emotional depth, and poetic storytelling, often blending reality with magical or symbolic elements.
Awesome. Has anyone ever seen the movie on Apple TV? The Sky's Everywhere? One of these days I'm gonna say, have you guys seen this or heard of this? And everyone's gonna raise your hand. I don't know what it's gonna be, but eventually. Okay. The quote of the day. I don't think you ever get over losing someone you love. You just learn how to live around the missing parts by Jenny Nelson. What could this quote mean? Do you agree? Explain and give an example. Um, 4 minutes should be okay. We can up this to 5 minutes. Okay. Starting the timer now. Okay. Um, let's get started. Again, you don't have to private message me just because I'm gonna put it up anyways, and then what happens is I just have to open a tab, just saves a couple seconds. Um, all right. Ethan, would you like to start by reading yours?
I believe that this quote, I don't think you ever get over losing someone you love. You just learn how to live around that, the missing parts. I believe this means that even after you lose someone you love, you don't ever forget about them. Instead, you try to cover up losing them with something you think you enjoy or something that you constantly do to avoid thinking about them. I agree because I can't imagine you losing your loved ones and not thinking about them constantly.
I agree because and not thinking about that. Nice. I believe that the quote, just a comma here is needed. Da, da, da. Okay, so you said I believe that this quote blank. So that's not a full sentence. Um, we could just say we could take out the period here. I believe that this quote means that you actually lose someone you love, comma, you don't forget them, and instead you try to cover, you don't ever forget them, and instead you try to cover up losing them with something you think you enjoy or something you do constantly to avoid thinking about them. Okay. I like the idea here, and I like what you're saying, but it can be said in a much easier way, I feel. Um, you don't ever forget them, and instead you I would say instead distract yourself with things uh you distract yourself by doing things to um yeah, I would say you just distract yourself by doing things you enjoy or yeah, distract. You find ways to distract yourself, something like that. It's much clearer than this because this is still broad, right? Something you think you enjoy or something you do constantly to avoid thinking about them. But this also falls under something you do to constantly avoid thinking about them. So this part doesn't really need to be said unless you want to make a specific point separately. I agree because I can't imagine you great. Okay. I do like the main idea here, Ethan. Good stuff. Just this sentence needs to be made clear. Um, oh, I just realized also this would make the sentence a bit too long. So this would also need to be adjusted because I removed the period here. But yeah. Okay, good stuff, Ethan. Derek, would you like to read yours? Derek? Okay, let's do Annabelle. Annabelle, would you like to read yours?
This quote suggests that when you lose someone you love, the pain never actually goes away. Instead of getting over the loss, you adjust to life without them. The missing person leaves a scar that becomes a permanent part of you, but over time you learn how to keep going. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means learning to live with the loss.
Ooh, very good. This quote suggests that when you lose someone you love, the pain. I would just get rid of this. Pain never actually goes away. Instead of getting over the loss, you you don't need to say that twice. You just life without them. The missing person leaves a scar that becomes permanent. I like this. A scar that becomes permanent part of you, but you live with scars. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means learning to live with the loss. Awesome, awesome. Good stuff, Annabelle. Great punctuation choice here. Um, okay. Let's keep it going. James, would you like to read yours?
I think that this quote means that the people you lost will never be forgotten, but instead you have to learn to live without them. I agree with this. If you lose someone important to you, it would be natural to remember them for the rest of your life. Although it will take years to learn, it is possible to adapt to life without the person you loved.
Nice. It is possible to. Great. I would say not only is it possible, I would say like you will naturally adapt to like that once they're gone, as long as you continue living, you have already in a way adapted. Maybe not the best adaptation, but still. So yeah, I agree. I would say possible to adapt to life. You can even add like adapt and be happy after too. I think no matter what, you can always end up finding a way to be somewhat happy. Um, great job, James. Very clear, concise, to the point. I like it. This is that's the goal essentially. Austin, would you like to read yours?
This quote means that when you lose someone you love, the pain never fully goes away. You don't really forget them or stop missing them. Instead, you slowly learn how to keep living even though they're gone. Over time, the sadness becomes easier to carry, but never fully disappears.
Depending on terms, even though they're gone. I would say without them is a bit clearer, but that's fine. Over time, the sadness becomes easier to carry, but it never fully disappears. Awesome. Very good job. Um, awesome. Um, I like this line. Instead you slowly learn to keep living even though they're gone. Okay, Russell, would you like to read yours?
I think this quote conveys that the pain and emptiness from the loss of a loved one never goes away. There will always be this missing part, but you learn to live around this absence by building new routines and comfort. Even though you have adapted to this loss, that person's absence will always be felt and this loss will become a part of you. Recovering from this loss means adapting to the change rather than trying to forget.
Awesome. Um, visit the pain and emptiness from loss of a loved one never goes away. There will always be a missing part. Always be a missing part, but you learn to live around this absence by building new routines and comfort. New building, you would buy. If we're going to talk about parallelism here, and it will maybe help clear up why I find this a little bit awkward, but to say, you know, building new routines and comfort. So you don't mean like building new comfort. So maybe it would be best to put it in the front, but even then, you learn to live around this absent, but with comfort and by building new routines. That would make it a little bit more clear. But even still, it's a little bit awkward. So when we touch on parallelism today, you'll see why they're two sort of totally different phrases, and it just needs to be maybe restructured a bit to sound a bit better. To know you have adapted to loss, the person's absence will always be. That's awesome. This is a great conclusion here. Um, awesome. Okay, good stuff, guys. Uh, everyone did a really good job here, and and we had quite a few responses. Good, good. Maybe it was a part of it was the time. I gave you guys a bit more time than usual, I think. So I'll keep that in mind. Okay, the vocab of the day. Can I get a volunteer reader? James, can you read this for us?
Acumen, the ability to make quick, accurate judgments. Her business acumen helped the company double its profits, rescind to revoke or cancel a law, order, or agreement. The government decided to rescind the outdated policy. Didactic, intent to teach, often in a moralizing way, did not The novel's didactic tone made it feel more like a lecture. Abjure to renounce or reject formally his abjured. He abjured his former beliefs after years of quiet doubt. Tenebrous. Adjective dark, shadowy, or obscure. The tenebrous alley seemed to swallow all the light and sound.
Awesome. Okay, so acumen, rescind, didactic, or didactic, abjure, and tenebrous. Is it tenebrous? I need to double check that pronunciation actually. Okay, you guys know the drill. 3 minutes. Starting the timer now. Time is up. You guys don't have to ask me if you're going to use bathroom or anything. Just maybe send a message or direct message or something that you're going to be gone for um, for a few minutes, so I don't call on you. Okay, Russell, start us off.
Bob's didactic acumen made him easily able to win the presidential voting against the tenebrous George, who tended to always rescind and abjure perfectly fine laws.
Nice. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just putting these up. Didactic acumen. Intending to teach. His acumen. I don't know if we can call an acumen didactic. Didactic acumen easily able. Made him easily able. Made him 200% tenebrous George, who intended to always rescind and abjure. Perfectly fine. So we can't say tended to always because that they're contradictory, right? Tended to means most of the time. So we want to say tended to rescind and against the tenebrous didactic acumen. So I don't think this makes sense unless someone can correct me here. Like an acumen can't be didactic. Made him easily able to win. I'm not I'll double check this, but I don't think this is grammatically correct. I think we can say, made it easy for him to win the presidential voting election, made him, didactic acumen, say this makes sense. Made it so that he was easily able to, win. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to get back to you guys on this one. These two, both of them have stumped me. Both from Russell. Okay, Annabelle, would you like to read yours? Are you back?
Yeah.
Awesome.
In the tenebrous debate room, Bob used his didactic tone and quick acumen to convince everyone else to abjure an old law and rescind the unjust rule.
Nice. Great. Didactic tone, quick acumen. Great. Derek, would you like to read yours? Okay, I think. Nope.
The secretive and tenebrous president to make a didactic decision to surprise the country used his acumen to rescind and abjure a law that ended up benefiting the country.
Nice. Tenebrous president to make it a didactic decision uses acumen to rescind and abjure a law that. Nice. Okay. Ethan, would you like to read yours?
As George's didactic tone made everyone take him seriously. He mentioned how his legislative acumen helped him realize that the government needed to rescind the outdated laws. When he said it, the room went tenderbrous as the group decided to abjure the old laws.
Awesome. The room went tenebrous. And the group stated it. I would say that the room was tenebrous. When he stated it, comma. Why is this right? No. He mentioned there's the acronym helped We need to take care of tense here, eh? So this was past tense, so we need to keep that in mind. Realized that the government needed to rescind the outdated laws. We stated it. The room went and recently. Nice. Okay, and last but not least. Okay, awesome. Would you like to read yours?
With her sharp acumen, Maria quickly realized the teacher's didactic lesson was meant to guide them, not just test them. When the rumors started spreading, she chose to observe it and stand by the truth. The principal decided to rescind the unfair rule that caused the problem. By the end of the day, the once tenebrous mood in the school had lifted, and everyone felt lighter.
Nice. Okay. Um, great job. Great job, Austin. I like how all the sentences you really clearly demonstrate the use of the word in the correct context, while the paragraph also is cohesive. Good stuff. That is the goal. Okay, let's get into a literary device. This one is huge parallelism. Can I get a volunteer? Russell, can you read this?
What is parallelism? Parallelism, also known as parallel structure or parallel construction, is the repetition of the same grammatical structure within a sentence or a series of sentences. It means using the same pattern of words to show that two or more ideas have the same level of importance. Think of it like setting up matching columns. All the items in one column should be the same grammatical type.
Awesome. Okay. Um, we'll just do two examples of different types of parallelism. Parallelism. Can I get actually Russell, can you do this one as well? The last slide was really short.
Example 1. Historical analysis, list of actions. In analyzing the causes of the revolution, one must consider three distinct failures of ruling monarchy. They failed to listen to the grievances of the common people, failed to manage the national debt responsibly, and failed to recognize the growing power of Enlightenment ideals. The trifecta of errors, a failure of empathy, a failure of governance, and a failure of vision set the stage for inevitable conflict and eventual collapse. The leaders of the rebellion were not merely seeking to remove a king, but rather to establish a government that was representative, accountable, and just. Highlighted structure. To listen to the grievances, to manage the national debt, and to recognize the growing power. Type of parallelism. Parallel infinitive phrases. A failure of empathy, a failure of governance, and a failure of vision. Parallel noun phrases. Representative, accountable, and just. Parallel adjectives.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, when you're doing lists to describe something and whatnot, we want to make sure we don't always have to use this literary device, right? With parallelism. And we're gonna talk about why it's beneficial. But generally speaking, things sound good. Um, sorry, someone messaged me, private chat. Generally speaking, things sound good when there is a sense of parallelism, right? If you look at any like popular speech out there, like presidential speech or any type of speech really, usually when they're talking about things, they'll use parallelism, and it makes things sound good. In this case, um, these are just lists, but there are many other types. Let's take a look at some parallelism here. Can I get Ethan? Ethan, can you read this one?
Parallelism. Example 2. Scientific argument. Compound sentences. The latest research strongly suggests that the climate change is driven by complex feedback loops with when Arctic ice melts, the ocean absorbs more sunlight. When forests are cleared, less carbon dioxide is removed when the atmosphere from the atmosphere. And when permafrost thaws, methane gas is released in greater quantities. These interconnected processes illustrate that the problem is not a simple single event, but a chain reaction that is accelerating quickly, impacting globally, and threatening life as we know it. Dealing with this crisis requires us to reduce emission, to develop renewable energy, and restore all natural carbon sinks. Highlighted structures. The ocean absorbs more sunlight, less carbon dioxide is removed, methane gas is released. Type of parallelism, parallel independent clauses, accelerating quickly, impacting globally, and threatening life as we know it. Parallel gerund, present participle phrases, us to reduce emission, to develop renewable energy, and to restore natural carbon sinks. Parallel infinitive phrases.
Awesome. So these are parallelism with more compound sentences, sort of contradictory. Actually, these are also still technically lists, but compound lists, let's say. All right, actually, I thought I had another example here. But anyways, based on the two sets of examples we've seen here, why use parallelism? Throw it in the chat. Or just open your mic and say it out loud. To give equal importance to each idea. Ooh, I like that a lot. That is sort of actually there's another literary device that is basically parallelism, but specifically to give balance to each idea. There are many different sort of types. Anyone else? Makes your writing clearer? Yes, that's it can. It can. It can okay, let's go to some examples. Can I get Austin? Austin, can you read this one?
Why use parallelism? Benefit, clarity. It makes your ideas easier to process and understand because the reader can anticipate the grammatical pattern. Benefit, rhythm and flow. It gives your prose a pleasant, balanced rhythm, making the essay more enjoyable to read. Emphasis and persuasion. It helps to highlight key points, making your arguments more impactful and memorable. This is particularly useful in thesis statements and topic sentences. Cohesion. It ties together related ideas, showing their equal status or function in the sentence's meaning.
Nice. So sort of the equal status, the balance that Russell talked about, balanced rhythm makes it more enjoyable, clearer. Anticipating the grammatical pattern is huge. It's all done subconsciously, so your brain is already sort of understands what the words mean and what the sentence is about as they're reading, like before they even get to the words. And emphasis. Honestly, emphasis can be, you can say every literary device. One of the reasons it's used is to add emphasis. Like realistically, that's always going to be one of the major points of a literary device. So that's a secret for your English classes out there. If your teacher ever talks about literary devices and says, "Why is this used?" Always just say the word emphasis. You don't even have to explain it. Just say emphasis. Okay. There are certain quote unquote rules. Like obviously, you guys use a lot of parallelism yourself subconsciously without even knowing. These are just some ways to sort of use it effectively. Parallel words. So this is sort of what I was talking about. I forgot who's writing, who had uh let's say a list of two items where it sounded awkward and there was I just wanted it to be restructured to sound a bit better. Can I get a volunteer reader for this slide? Okay, let's get James. James, can you read this one?
Parallelism. The rules. How to create a parallel structure. Parallelism applies to words, phrases, and clauses when they are connected by coordinating conjunctions like and, but, or, nor. Correlative conjunctions like either or, neither, nor, not only, but also. Or when they are part of a list or series. Parallel words ensure all words in a series are the same part of speech. All nouns, all adjectives, all verbs. The speech was powerful, moving, and had an impact on the audience. The speech was powerful, moving, and impactful. All adjectives.
Awesome. Okay. Can I get someone else? Let's get Russell. Russell, can you read this one?
The rules. How to create parallel structure. 2. Parallel phrases. Keep all phrases in a series the same type. All prepositional phrases, all infinitive phrases, and gerund phrases. Non-parallel. Incorrect. The student's goals are to pass the exam, writing a strong paper, and sleep more. Parallel. Correct. The student's goals are to pass the exam, to write a strong paper, and to sleep more. All infinitive phrases. The student's goals are passing the exam, writing a strong paper, and sleeping more. All gerund phrases. 3. Parallel clauses. Make sure all clauses being connected to follow the same structure. Non-parallel. Incorrect. The committee decided that the budget needed to be cut and they would delay the project. Parallel. Correct. The committee decided that the budget needed to be cut and that the project would be delayed. Both are that clauses.
Awesome. Okay, and let's do the last one, correlative conjunctions. Ethan, can you read this one?
The rules. How to create parallel structures. 4. Using correlative conjunctions. Structure. Follow the structure following the first part of correlative conjunction. E.G. not only must match the structure following the second part. Non-parallel. Incorrect. She is not only a talented writer, but she also is an excellent speaker. She is an also she is an excellent speaker. Parallel. Correct. She's not only a talented writer, but also an excellent speaker. Both parts are followed by a noun/noun phrase. She not only writes with talent, but she also speaks with excellence. Both parts follow by a verb and modifier.
Awesome. Okay. Let's do a little application one. Let's get Annabelle. Annabelle, can you read this one?
Using parallelism strategically can dramatically elevate your essay's quality. one thesis statement. A parallel thesis can clearly articulate the main points your essay will cover, showing their equal importance to your argument. Example, original. This essay will explore how the Industrial Revolution led to new technologies, changed society, and the environment was damaged. Parallel. The Industrial Revolution profoundly impacted Europe by fostering technological innovation, reshaping society common structures, and creating widespread ecological damage. Parallel noun phrases. Topic sentences and body paragraphs. Use parallelism to list evidence or examples within a paragraph or to structure a list of supporting claims with a topic sentence. Example, the protagonist's transformation is fueled by his refusal to compromise, his unwavering dedication to his family, and his eventual rejection of materialism. 3. Transitions. Parallel structure can create a memorable concluding statement or summary that reinforces your main points. Example, in the end, it is clear that the solution requires commitment from the government, cooperation from the citizens, and investment from private industry. Parallel prepositional phrases.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys have probably are like when you guys read essays, articles, and stuff, or even when you write, you probably use these transitions and these type of topic sentences all the time. And I've actually seen these type of topic sentences all the time. So this literary device just helps you put a name to it and helps you sort of you might recognize it moving forward and use it when there is an opportunity to. And you may not have it had you not learned this was a thing. Okay, so sort of taking our hot take assignment and attaching it here. Write a paragraph about a hot take you have and use some sort of parallelism, right? I'm gonna give you guys about 5 minutes. Actually, we'll do 6 minutes. Defend your hot take. 6 minutes. All right. Starting the timer now. All right, all right, all right. Time is up. Let's see what we came up with. Okay, let's take a look at these. Annabelle, start us off.
Dark chocolate is too bitter. It has too much cocoa and not enough sugar to make it sweet. One bite is okay, but if you eat more, it feels like your taste buds are wilting. Some people say it's fancy, but it mostly just tastes like an unripe bitter tomato.
Awesome. Okay. Um, okay, where would you say is the parallelism here?
Oh,
There,
I think I forgot about that.
so actually, you could argue too much cocoa and not enough sugar is a quick form of parallelism. So I'm just gonna highlight that. So see, like it's there everywhere, right? This shows too much of something and not enough of something. There's a little contrast, a little balance. Um, I would say it would you could even get rid of this and it would be a little more clear, this last section here. But good job. Dark chocolate's too bitter. Also, side note that like there's different ratings of dark chocolate, so hard to say all dark chocolate is bitter. Maybe okay, maybe you're saying even the lowest rating of dark chocolate is too bitter. That's fair. Um, okay, Russell, would you like to read yours?
I believe that all the hype and money spent on trying to colonize Mars would be better off spent on fixing problems we have on Earth. We've got pollution, poverty, and climate change all piling up. Instead of spending billions to live on a cold red rock, we could use that money and creativity to make this planet better.
Okay, nice, nice. We could use it to make this planet better. Where do you think the parallelism is here?
Pollution, poverty, and climate change.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Ethan, would you like to read yours?
Japanese food is the most diverse tasting food in the world. First of all, there is both options for vegans and non-vegans, with some food having a sweet aspect or salty aspect or both. These mix of flavors make Japanese food top-notch. Secondly, there are different levels of the flavoring you want. Unlike most American sweets, you can't change you can't change the sweetness. Lastly, Japanese food is almost always made on the spot and everything is fresh and nearly made every day.
Awesome. Um, okay, where do you think the parallelism is?
Um,
I would argue this right here, it's not the clearest parallelism, but vegans and non-vegans, then sweet or salty, um, or both. So there's sort of like a for this and this and for this and this, then two opposing sides. Um, great. Do we have any other takers, any other volunteers here? We only have 3 responses. That is not good. Okay. For the next activity, attack one of the hot takes. So I'm only gonna give you guys like 2 minutes for this. But attack one of the hot takes. Since there's only three responses, there's gonna be overlap, so nothing we can do about that. Um, and yeah, we'll start the timer now. Okay, time is up. Let's see what we came up with.
I'm almost done.
Oh. Okay, we have one. Russell, would you like to read this?
I disagree that Japanese food is the most diverse. They rarely have bitter food, and most of their seafood is raw and therefore unsuitable for children. In addition, the salty and sweet aspects can be found all over the world in all different types of cuisines, like Indian, Chinese, and Mexican, only naming a few. Japanese food also isn't always fresh because some are specially aged for decades.
Awesome. Okay, interesting. Can be found all the world. That's true. That's true. But yeah, interesting. Interesting take. Japanese food is diverse, but yeah, I never consider it the most diverse. But it is quite interesting. Annabelle, would you like to read yours?
Japanese food is tasty and well made, but it's not the most diverse. Most dishes use the same ingredients like rice, fish, and soy sauce, and they don't have many strong spices. There are different foods in different parts of Japan, but most of them are relatively similar. Japan cooking focuses on making food perfect instead of trying lots of new flavors. Overall, Japanese dishes, although good, aren't the most diverse compared to other countries.
Interesting. Interesting. That this is true. They are Japan has this perfectionist culture, which is amazing because that's how you get awesome stuff like extremely nice knives and ink and I don't know, Japanese cars. Best cars. Okay. Ethan, would you like to read yours?
I disagree with this opinion that we should focus more on fixing problems on Earth and stop trying to go and colonize Mars. First of all, we can't convince every other nation to stop colonizing Mars. Secondly, you can't stop pollution just with one nation. You need to have all of the nations work together to stop pollution and climate changes.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, I think I lean towards we should do both at the same time, always. But definitely focus more on fixed problems on Earth, but still do some work otherwise. That's my personal belief there too. Um, just a comment here. Great, good job, guys. Okay, let's get into the article of the day. Can I get a volunteer reader? Let's get Derek. Derek, can you read this and the first slide? Okay, I'll read this one. Do you pay attention to whether what you buy is made ethically? When you shop, do you consider issues like labor practices and environmental impact? Okay, let's get Austin. Austin, can you read this one?
Do you pay attention to whether what you buy is made ethically? When you buy a piece of clothing, do you ever stop to think about who made it and under what conditions they worked? Do you consider the environmental impact of your shopping habits? Do you care about those issues, but find them too complicated to unpack in our complex global economy? Or do you believe that shopping and ethics are unrelated, and the only details that matter are price, quality, style, and convenience? In a recent ethicist column in the New York Times Magazine, a reader seeks advice about letting her values influence what she buys. I've been thinking a lot lately about better aligning my values with my purchasing decisions, particularly when it comes to clothing. I'm aware that concerns have been raised about human rights conditions in some manufacturing facilities in developing countries and in China. My inclination is not to purchase from companies that appear to be unconcerned about the working conditions in their overseas factories. I also realize, however, that many people, often in poor conditions, depend on these jobs to support themselves and their families. Other ethical guidelines help me decide if I'm doing the right thing. Barbara P.
Awesome. Um, okay, here's the next one. Before reading the reply, how might you answer Barbara P's questions? Do her letter, values, and concerns resonate with you guys? Put your hand up if this resonates with you guys. Do you guys consider um wear your clothing or software or hardware or toys or anything? Do you consider where it comes from? Do you consider how it's made? Your chocolate, do you consider whether it's, sourced ethically? Because that's a major concern, right? In those countries where cocoa beans grow, um, most of the time farmers are not paid a fair wage. Okay, let's keep going. Can I get James? Can you read this?
Before reading the reply, how might you answer Barbara's P's question? Do her letter values and concerns resonate with you? Now read the reply by Quaim Anthony Appiah, the ethicist columnist. The United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights holds that companies have a responsibility to respect human rights and address abuses in their supply chains. These days, many corporations have adopted such policies and set standards for their suppliers, though monitoring remains uneven and abuses persist. For a consumer, this means most large companies will have public positions on labor rights. With a bit of research, you can see what they claim to be doing. For example, Walmart publishes detailed supplier standards. Target has a business partner code of conduct and defines its expectations with respect to health, safety, and more. Burberry's human rights policy requires all its business associates to comply with various international conventions concerning working conditions. Whether these commitments are honored is another matter, but once companies make such pledges, they at least risk public exposure if they fail. Various advocacy groups provide additional ways to compare firms, though you should always check the criteria behind their rank.
Awesome. Okay, so there are minimal guiding principles for businesses internationally on human rights, but man, like when there's just so many abuses that like it's it's not really followed, it's not really it's not enforced, obviously. Um, and yeah. Okay, can I get Russell, can you read this one?
He continues, still the picture is complicated. Exploitation occurs everywhere, not just abroad. Millions of U.S. workers earn poverty wages. In 2023, the UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights raised questions about whether Amazon, DoorDash, and Walmart were contributing to in-work poverty. So the moral problem isn't confined to the global south. It's in American warehouses too. A big complication, as you're aware, is that while abstaining spares us complicity, it also deprives others of their livelihood. Bangladesh's ready-made garment industry has been plagued by poor conditions, yet it also helped cut extreme poverty in that country sharply in recent decades. Workers often take these jobs not because they are good, but because they are better than the alternatives. That doesn't mean they aren't exploited. Governments often suppress nations and tilt the rules against labor, leaving workers choosing the least bad option. So the challenge is to balance opposition to exploitation with the recognition that these industries have also been engines of survival and growth. Individual consumer choices, when tied into coordinated campaigns, can help push companies toward higher standards without losing sight of their uncomfortable truth. Clean hands here should not mean empty hands elsewhere.
Awesome. Um, that's true. That's true. This is a very pertinent line, right? Just because you could be a good person and do things in your community that's good, but if you indirectly support terrible working conditions, terrible companies, whatever, like does it cancel out? At what point are at what point is it sort of you are making an unethical decision? It's very tough. um can I get Annabelle, can you read this one?
In a winning essay for the 2022 Student Editorial Contest, Evelyn Wong, 17, wrote about the environmental impact of fast fashion. Fast fashion is a relatively recent phenomenon. During the 1900s, retailers began to introduce trendy, cheaply priced, poorly made clothes on a weekly basis, intending to match the breakneck pace at which fashion trends move. Style becomes cheap, convenient, and consumable. Fast fashion, however, is ultimately a privilege. It is a privilege to buy clothes solely for their style, and it is a privilege to ignore the environmental consequences of doing so. In reality, the aggressive cycle of consumption perpetuated by fast fashion means that the clothes we wear are now more likely than ever to end up as part of the 92 million tons of textile waste produced annually.
Nice. Okay. On to the one and only question for this. Are you concerned with how the things you buy, clothes, food, accessories, for example, are made? Do labor practices and environmental impact of a company ever change what you decide to buy? Why or why not? So you can be, honest. There's no judgment here, right? We'll do 7 minutes. When we analyze the responses, it should go right up to the end. All right, starting the timer now. All right, all right. Time is up. Let's see what we came up with. Okay, Ethan, would you like to read yours?
No, because it will be a long way until global warming will affect us. And also, if they put so much work into it, they are still getting paid even after they're not. Even and even after not buying a single shirt because of the working conditions, doesn't mean they'll shut down the whole company or give better working environments.
Okay, nice. So this definitely needs to be, so we're gonna say no. We can put a comma because it will be a long way until global warming will affect us. Let's just put a period here because this is too much for one sentence, right? So let's put a period here and let's continue. Also, if they put so much work into it, what is it? They are still getting paid, and even after not buying a single shirt. So this is a totally different idea here. Another needs another sentence, right? I'm just gonna put this yellow. Also, if they put so much work into it, they are still getting paid. If they so this is if they put so much into it, they are still getting paid does not need an if, right? They put so much work into it and they are still getting paid. There's no if real clause here, right? Let's just I'm just gonna put a break here. Like should be another idea. Even after not buying a single shirt because of work conditions doesn't mean they will shut down the whole company or give better working conditions. Okay, the working environment. So this needs to be just just cleaned up quite a bit here, but that is a fair argument. That is a fair argument. So you're saying, well, global warming is not going to affect us now, so I don't care. Which I mean, personally, I think that isn't the best um argument because I think you need to then argue why it affecting your kids or your kids' kids doesn't also like why you don't care about that. If you state that, then that's okay, but it's not clear why, global warming not affecting us now, but affecting future generations is not like it's not obvious why that doesn't matter. So it needs to be stated in argument here. Then also not buying a single shirt. This is fair. This is fair. But there are plenty of counters to this argument as well. And then this is a good argument, right? You're arguing they can put in so much work, blah, blah, but they're still getting paid. Okay. Good stuff, Ethan. Good ideas. I like that you took the sort of more difficult stance. Just need to work on the grammar, breaking ideas up, breaking ideas up. You don't need to put and then another idea. Just put a full stop. Now carry on with a totally another argument. Separate it with full sentences. That's what I want you to work on here. Okay, Russell, would you like to read yours?
Not really, but if I do think about it, those workers are probably just happy to have somewhere to work. So buying the company's product, what? Also supports the workers. The environmental factor, I do try to help normally, but if the non-environmental and environmental option has a $30 price difference, then I'm still going with the non-environmental one.
Um, okay. So, fair enough, fair enough. That I mean, you're being honest. That's fair. Um, so even if the work conditions are bad, they're happy to have a job. That's also fair. Um, okay, good stuff, guys. Awesome. Would you like to read yours?
I try to think carefully about the things I buy and how they're made. I want to know who makes them and how they're treated. And when I learn that a company hurts the planet or mistreats its workers, it changes how I see them. I'd rather buy from brands that care about people, protect the environment, and do what's right.
Nice. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Annabelle, would you like to read yours?
When I go shopping, I usually don't consider about how the items I buy are made. I never actually thought about it before, but now that I think of it, I still think the workers have a salary, so they should be fine. The working environment should be good, but it's not much of a difference.
Okay, awesome. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's not something you've looked into before. Good stuff, guys. I'm glad everyone's able to like, be honest about their position and their takes. So that's good. What I will say is I would say definitely do some research into it. You know, how some working conditions are sort of terrible and trying to support ethical consumption when you can is generally a good thing, right? Like local things and stuff like that. Um, it has ripple effects, generally. That's generally from what I've read so far. But yeah, I mean, do your own research. It's cool. Read some articles out there. That's still English. So, anyways, the homework is if you had to provide ethical guidelines for teenagers to consider when they shop for clothes or other items, what would you recommend? I would say even here, hmm, actually, you know what? I would say even if you disagree that you have to care about where your clothes come from generally, there are going to be at some point something that is so egregious that you shouldn't buy, right? So everyone has some guidelines. Some people's are like mostly open and some people's are mostly not. So I think this question is fine. Um, it's not forcing you to, I don't think it's forcing you to take a stance you don't want to take. Everyone has some guidelines to an extent. Like, I mean, imagine there is a t-shirt made by someone who hates, um, all Asian people, right? You probably wouldn't want to buy that shirt, generally speaking. Um, so, I guess everyone has a line. So just, this question's still valid. Just depends on where that line is for you and whatnot. Okay, so that's all for the homework. I will see you all next week. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Bye.